make this as simple a video as possible. So please do drop a like, subscribe if you're new. I always get asked what my most used loadouts are and what the loadouts and tuning are for them. So we're just going to go through, we're going to show you what the guns are that I use the most, why I think they're good, what the loadouts are, what the tuning are, and we'll keep it really brief, really simple, so that you can remember what it is. So we'll start with the two that everyone's using anyway, just in case you don't know these. So the RPK, quite a simple build. We've got the AIM AIM OP-V4 scope, which is tuned for ADS, and then I don't touch this. I actually like the distance on most of the scopes, so I just leave it. We've got the Polarfire S suppressor for recoil smoothness to the max and bullet velocity to the max. Then the FTAC Ripper under barrel for recoil stabilization and aiming idle stability. Although I like to change this. It's tuned for this at the moment, but normally I'd have it for aim walking speed. I was just trying a different version. I like aim walking speed because it's basically strafe speed, so when you're aimed in, how fast you move left and right. I find that really helpful in this game because obviously the movement is a bit short, but I had changed this, so that's generally what I use. And then the high velocity ammunition, which is tuned for damage range and bullet velocity. And then finally the TrueTac grip for ADS speed and sprint to fire speed. If you're struggling with a recoil, tune that for recoil steadiness instead of ADS, or put on one of the barrels that helps, or a stock or something like that. But this is the class that I use. Then we'll go with the FENNEC as well, because obviously everyone loves the FENNEC. This is the build that I use. We've got the FSS Sharkfin 90, which is tuned for recoil stabilization and aim walking speed. Once again, that strafe speed up close is massive. The armor piercing ammunition for damage range and bullet velocity. You can kind of, doesn't really matter how you tune them, in my opinion, but that's just how I've got mine done. The 45 round mag, the rubber grip for ADS speed and sprint to fire speed. Pretty obvious why. And then we've got the FTAC Loctite stock. You can't see it behind my thing, but I'll bring it up. The FTAC Loctite stock for ADS speed and aim walking speed. Once again, getting aimed in as fast as possible and then being able to strafe about as well. Massive in terms of close range engagements on this. So they're the two most common guns at the moment, like the metas per se, but we'll go on to some of the other guns now. So these are the X12s, which are really good akimbo pistols. If you struggle with the P890s because they've got a lower magazine, I would suggest these. You can have a slightly bigger mag on. So I have the 1 milliwatt pistol laser, the FT still fire muzzle, which is tuned for recoil smoothness and bullet velocity, and then the XRK lighting fire, which is for recoil smoothness and sprint to fire speed. You obviously don't need ADS, so recoil smoothness helps. Then I've got the 24 round mag. You can get rid of the mag and put something else on, but the 24 round mag seems to work well for me. Or you can put the 33 round on if you're still struggling with the ammo size, but I find you run quite slow with that, so I don't bother. And then akimbo as well, and then they're the only two that you tune. So then we have got the MP5. The MP5 is a brilliant submachine gun, and I really like it. I've got the FTAC M sub 12-inch barrel on, which is tuned for aim walking speed. Once again, that strafe speed is just massive, and damage range. Obviously, it's a close-up gun, so you don't really need the damage range, but with the SMGs in this, the damage drop-off is quite significant. So past 20 meters, you're kind of definitely in need of that sort of thing, and this allows it to be a little bit more versatile, as opposed to just being a beast up close. I've got the VLK laser 7 milliwatt, the 40 round mag, the LACHMANN TCG10 rear grip, which is tuned for recoil steadiness and sprint to fire speed. Sprint to fire speed, I personally think, is more important than ADS in this game, because everything ADS is slow. So if you can have that advantage to be able to shoot first, regardless of whether you're ADS or hip firing, it does help significantly. And then the LM stockless mod, it's this one just because you can't see it, the TAC 56. This gun is an absolute beast if you want a bit of a faster AR in terms of being faster than the RPK. The damage isn't quite as good, but it's definitely an absolute monster if you're good at recoil control and you can deal with the damage drop off. So I've got the VLK scope on. It's tuned for ADS, and once again, just not touching the tuning for the distance. You can change this for the AIM OP or any of the other scopes. I would suggest if you're going to change it, go for the AIM OP, especially if you're struggling with recoil control. I don't know where it is, but it's the same one as on the RPK. And then the barrel is the 17.5 inch Tundra Pro for recoil steadiness and damage range. Once again, it's an AR using it at long range, so we're gonna tune it to fit that suitably. The Harbinger D20 suppressor, which is tuned for recoil smoothness and bullet velocity. If you want to change this, I would suggest changing it for the Echoline GSX or one of the other or the Echoless 80, probably the Echoless 80. This is just the one that I'm using. I haven't really found much of a difference other than this one's slightly better, but like for recoil and damage range, but it does slow the ADS slightly more, so I just tend to stick with this one. But for most people, I'd probably suggest this and then tune it the same way. We've got the FTAC Ripper 56 for ADS and aim walking speed. Once again, that straight speed just comes in clutch, and I find the recoil's generally good enough for me to not need to tune it for recoil, but if you're struggling, tune it for recoil. And then 40 round mag as well. And then the LACHMANN, this gun's really good, but the damage drop off is just a bit too much for me, so I don't generally use it. But in terms of recoil control, it's quite easy to use. We've got the AIM-OP V4 tuned for ADS speed. We've got the 15.9 inch LACHMANN wrap barrel, which is tuned for recoil steadiness and damage range. And then we've got the Echoless GSX, tuned for recoil smoothness and bullet velocity. The FTAC Ripper 56 for recoil stabilization and aim walking speed, and then 40 round mag. Once again, with this one, there's a bit of sway on the suppressors. I just have this one on so it didn't slow my ADS, because I found the ADS on this gun quite clunky. So I used this one, so the ADS is as fast as it can be, but still using a suppressor. But obviously, if you don't mind a slower ADS, I would suggest probably the Echoless 80 or the Harbinger, I can't say that word, Harbinger D20, and then tune them in a similar way to the TAC 56. On this class, we've got Akimbo X13s. Now, I don't have these fully leveled up, so that I don't have them tuned, but at the level that I've got them and the class that I've got them, I honestly don't care about the tuning, because these guns are mental. They're so good up close, and they was the only pistols that didn't get nerfed recently. So this is the loadout, pretty similar to the last one. We've got the 1 milliwatt pistol laser, XRK Luck 9 barrel. If you want to use one of them, you can put this on and build it out like an SMG and still have it as a secondary, and it's really good. I haven't really played about too much with it yet, but it looks pretty good. The FT Steel Fire, 33 round mag, and Akimbo. You can obviously change this for the 50 round or the 24 round. I found 33 to be better than 24, because they do burn through ammo really, really fast. And the 50 is probably going to be pretty simple. The 50 is probably going to be pretty good, but it's ultimately just going to slow you down more than the 33. So I think that's probably the sweet spot. Then we have got the STB. Now, I don't know what it's showing a RAAL. The STB, I absolutely love this gun. I think this gun is so underrated, and I think too many people are sleeping on this. But this is just such a good class. I've got the VLK laser 7 milliwatt. I've experimented between this ammo and a sight. The iron sight is quite good on this, up to about 50 meters. Past 50 meters, it's a bit rats, and you might want to scope on it. But to be honest, I don't really mind it, and obviously it keeps the ADS nice and fast too. If you want to scope, once again, I'd go for the AIM-OP V4 or the VLK, because the recoil on this is pretty good, but this is just what I'm using at the moment. If you want ammunition, go for the high velocity, but once again, I haven't found it made too much of a difference. I've got the 24.4 inch Bruin S620, that is a mouthful barrel, tuned for recoil steadiness and damage range, pretty much the same tuning for most of the barrels. I've actually got the Echoless 80 on this one for recoil smoothness and bullet velocity. I've got the FTAC Ripper for recoil stabilization, aim walking speed, and then the 42 round mag as well. This is completely useless. Don't use this, just in case you was interested in trying it. Now, the RAAL's really good. It's just slow, and I don't really like how slow it is. I don't know if I've tuned this, because I only recently built it, but I have used it a fair amount. We've got the AIM-OP V4. We've got the FSS old V4 laser. You can change this for a magazine, a stock, or a rear grip, whichever one you prefer. But the ADS on this is very slow, which is why I don't really use it that often. But because it's slow ADS and very low recoil, it does absolutely shred people at range. It's like, it feels like it's like a 2 headshot down. It's not, but I don't know what the exact stats are, but it's very good. For tuning, okay, I have tuned it. We've got max recoil steadiness, max damage range. We've got the Bruin Agent 90. Once again, this can be changed for sort of any of these first few suppressors. This is just the one that I've got on it at the moment. It seemed to be the one that I settled on most. Tuned for not quite all the way to recoil smoothness, just solely because the recoil is already quite good on it. And then bullet velocity, and I didn't want to slow the ADS down completely. We've got the SA side grip for recoil stabilization, aim walking speed. The stray speed's not as important on this, but I don't really care too much about idle stability, so it's not really that big of a deal. And that's basically the RAAL. So this is the P890. This is a very, very high damage Kimbo pistol build. Basically, we've got a Kimbo 12-round mag, which is the maximum mag you can have on it, which is why I don't use them that much. If you hit your shots with it, it's really good, but, you know, I just tend to miss. So we've got it tuned for recoil smoothness, sprint to fire speed, the FT still fire muzzle as well for recoil smoothness and bullet velocity. So we've got the Orbiter, which is the KASTOV 545. I really, really like this gun. It reminds me a lot of the Grounded in the way it looks and handles somewhat similar as well. I have the VLK scope on it at the moment, tuned solely for ADS speed. The recoil on this gun's pretty good. I've got the FSS OL V4 laser. I would prefer to change this for one of the magazines, but for some reason, every time I equip either the 45 or the 60, it just doesn't work and I'm wasting an attachment. It still keeps me with 30 mags, so I just don't use it. But eventually I will. We've got the IG K30 406mm barrel. This is bogged, it shouldn't look like that. But it's tuned for recoil steadiness and damage range. The Harbinger D20, once again, you can change this for sort of any of these three. This is just the one that I've personally settled on because it's a little bit faster than that one. And you give away some of the other stuff. But that's tuned for recoil smoothness and bullet velocity. And then we've got the FTAC Ripper as well, which is tuned for recoil stabilization, aim walking speed. Once again, that aim walking speed just comes in quite clutch in some of the engagements. And then the final class of the day is the Vaznev. This is a really, really good SMG. Definitely up there with the MP5 and the FENNEC for me. It's quite high mobility. Personally, I just find it quite fun to use, and obviously you can level it up quite easy because there's a lot of ground loot ones. So it's a bit of a weird build. We've got the Ostrazat stock, which is basically just like a skeletal stock for ADS and aim walking speed. And then we've got the FTAC Grimline laser. You can change that for a couple of the other ones. This is just one that I settled on. You've got the KAZ 1381mm barrel, which I have tuned for aim walking speed and ADS speed. I basically built this gun entirely for mobility. I don't really care about recoil because the recoil on it's good anyway, but also you're only using it up close, so I'm not really that phased. The VX Pineapple grip for aim, hip walking speed and ADS speed. You can go this for hip recoil control, but realistically, I don't really need that. I'd rather be able to walk faster with it because, you know, walking around the corners and stuff. And obviously, if you're ADS'd with this laser, then it shows while you're ADS'd. So I'd rather be able to walk around a corner, not ADS'd, if that makes sense, and be a bit faster. And then the 45 round mag. But that is pretty much all of the go-to weapons that I'm using at this point in time. So if you have any questions, please do leave them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you. If there's any guns that you do want me to see, you do want to see me use, then let me know. But ultimately, this is sort of my go-tos at the moment. So don't just suck it, Halfordsuck it. Be sure to subscribe if you're new, like the video, and I'll see you all soon.